you think that it's possible that maybe a person who's heard of these legends might dress up and try to play tricks on people?
Honestly, that sounds extremely accurate and wildly hilarious, so I kind of hope it's that.
To be honest, I would do that.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of Atheist Vanguard. I'm Derek Hawke.
I'm Rachel Watson.
I'm Jim Barrows.
All right, let's jump into today's interview.
Hi, my name is Shane Isgrig. I'm here with the Atheist Vanguard. What was your name?
My name's Griffin. It's nice to meet you, Shane.
Nice to meet you too, man. We're out here interviewing people about paranormal, supernatural claims, anything from ghosts to gods. You mentioned something called cryptids, I think?
Cryptids, yeah, like stuff like Bigfoot, Mothman.
Okay, could you tell me, is there any of these cryptids that you personally hold a belief in?
My favorite one is Goatman, because
Goatman,
there's
okay.
actually a bridge that he's supposed to haunt in Denton.
Okay, it sounds familiar to the Mothman. I've heard of that before.
Yeah,
Okay,
he's
haunts a
compared to
bridge.
Mothman a lot,
Okay.
yeah. I think they're wildly interesting, and perfect time to talk about this because it is almost Halloween. It is on
Totally.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah, have you ever done research into cryptids, Shane?
Cryptids, I haven't, to be honest. At least I haven't actually heard that term before.
Yeah.
As far as the similarity, I've heard of Mothman before, right?
Yeah,
So,
it's basically all the creatures like that, like the Bigfoots, like
definitely heard of
Wendigos,
that.
what
Yeti.
have you. Yeah, the
Okay.
Yeti too. They're like all the creatures that don't really exist, but probably could.
They just might, okay.
Yeah, like
you've
heard of lots of people hunting for like Shangri-La, which is where the Yetis are from, or like all over America, people looking for Bigfoot,
Right.
or like even the Loch Ness Monster. That's still a cryptid.
That's actually, I think, the first one that I learned about.
I think that's the
Okay.
first one like everyone learns about. That one or Bigfoot. Those are
Yeah.
definitely the two most popularized.
Definitely some popular ones.
Oh,
Do you personally believe in it was the Goatman that you mentioned?
It's weird. It's like a yes and a no.
Okay, so you're on the
Because-
fence about it. You're
yeah.
open to it.
Because one of my friends, like we all went to the bridge and like it really freaked him out, and so like I kind of do believe, because if there was
Okay.
nothing there, then he wouldn't be so freaked out, right?
Okay, so I would like to touch on that experience.
Mm-hmm.
So you talked about being near the bridge and
Yeah.
something freaked your friend out.
I don't know what it
And-
was. Like
okay.
like it's just this bridge up in Denton, and it's just a bridge in the middle of nowhere.
Okay. So were you guys kind of sitting down, hanging out for a minute, and then your friend?
We were kind of just being wild boys, and then after a while,
sure.
he was just kind of like, "Oh no, we're gonna make Goatman mad."
Did anybody see it visually, or
I didn't. My friend, we're just gonna call him John. He claims to, but
You're just not sure.
I'm just not sure. Yeah, because I didn't see anything or
Okay.
hear anything.
So you don't think he was being dishonest? You're just not sure if what he saw was in fact
The Goatman.
the
Yeah.
Goatman, right? Okay. Do you think that it's possible that maybe a person who's heard of these legends might dress up and try to play tricks on people?
Honestly, that sounds extremely accurate and wildly hilarious. So I kind of hope it's that.
To be honest, I would do that.
Yeah,
I would
that does
if
sound like
I
a lot of
lived there,
fun.
I would do it at least
Oh, yeah,
a few
dude.
times a year. Okay, so sounds like you're not asserting that it is a true or false thing. You're just open to it.
Oh, yeah.
I like the sound of that. Are there any cryptids that you're pretty confident exist, like Yeti or?
Honestly, this is gonna sound kind of cliche, but Bigfoot. I mean,
Bigfoot?
it only makes sense.
Okay.
Because like looking at evolution, we came from apes. He's
Right.
pretty much the like missing link between apes and humans. So it would only make
Do you
sense.
think that humans, like Homo sapiens as we are now, evolved from Bigfoot? So do you think Bigfoot might be like a primitive
Yeah,
ancestor?
that's pretty much the whole deal about Bigfoot.
Okay.
And what he is, that he's like the missing link between us and our ancestry.
Do you believe that there have ever been any like fossils of Bigfoot found? Because we have plenty of our primitive ancestors.
Yeah,
That's why we're able to look at it.
I'm pretty sure there's got to be at least one out there, but it's probably been trashed for like a whole conspiracy theory.
Right. I mean, there are going to be people assuming both ways, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So you think it's most likely something that's a primitive ancestor of ours that didn't evolve into the same thing that we evolved into?
Yeah.
Okay, that kind of makes sense. Has there ever been any experiences in your life with Bigfoot, or
Not Bigfoot or really any cryptids. I'm
Okay.
trying to rake my mind for anything supernatural.
Has
but I haven't really
anything
been that
ever
fortunate.
kind of reaffirmed your belief in Bigfoot? Have you ever been a little skeptical and something just kind of reassured you of it?
for me, it's really like the TV shows of the people hunting Bigfoot, because they just have this belief, and nothing will ever break that they're like searching for Bigfoot. He's real to them, and he'll never stop being real. And that just kind of like, I don't know, it spoke to me, I guess.
For sure. All right, well, I guess I'll get to wrapping that pretty soon, but I guess one of my final questions, if a person is very honestly and passionately convinced that something is true, does that make it more likely that the thing that they believe in is true, or do you think that whether or not you believe or doubt is completely irrelevant of truth?
There is definitely power in belief, but for me, it all comes down to, can it be proven,
Right.
And after those beliefs are proven, where are you going to go from there? Are you going to treat people differently? Are you going to treat people the same? So I think actually, like, with the power of belief, you kind of do have to believe. Like,
Okay.
I think belief is a big part of stuff being real.
Right.
Like, look at Ronald Reagan. People believed in him, and he became president, even though he's a terrible person.
For sure. So belief might influence truth.
Yes,
All right.
I believe that 100% completely.
Okay. All right. Well, good talking to you, man. Thanks
Yeah,
again for
very
the
nice to meet
interview.
you, Shane.
You
Thank
too.
you.
All right.
Is Shane a cryptid?
So by the end of this episode, we will answer that question: is Shane a cryptid or not? And
To our best of our
Yes.
ability.
And is he protecting his cryptid fellows, his cryptid brothers
fellows.
and sisters?
Yeah,
I think he was interviewed by Slender Shane.
I think so. What's your favorite cryptozoological creature?
I kind of a big fan of werewolves. If we're gonna do the cryptozoology thing, just because being able to transform into a wolf and having that.
Well, most cryptids, for most part, not all, kind of don't really revolve around the supernatural. Some do, like Mothman does, the Wendigo does, Skinwalkers.
But I mean, even a werewolf does not have to necessarily be
Right.
related to a supernatural claim to be able to shapeshift or do any of those other things.
Yeah, okay.
So
Shapeshift is not supernatural.
doesn't have to be, because from a certain point of
I
view,
shapeshifted. I used to have facial hair, and now I don't.
well, yeah, but butterflies shapeshift.
That's true, actually.
Right.
They shapeshift, or they
don't go back and forth, though.
No, they don't go back and forth, but they do shapeshift. So
Yeah, but I don't know. My favorite cryptid, I think, is maybe a Shane Yeti or a Shane to go.
Shane to go.
Shane Grilla to look up.
Yeah.
Find me,
What about a Chupachandra?
A choop choop.
yeah.
Okay.
Or a Shane foot.
Or Shane.
Moth Shane.
Now, if it was more than one Shane, would it be a Shane feet?
Because
I always wonder what the plural of a Bigfoot is.
And we're only poking fun because Shane's not here. Not poking fun at Griffin, just FYI.
Yeah, we are poking fun at Shane.
Yeah.
He's not at the table today.
He's not on tape.
So,
Yeah.
for our viewers, let's just define cryptology and cryptids. So, cryptology is a pseudoscience and a subculture that aims to prove the existence of entities from folklore records such as Bigfoot, the Chupacabra, and something I've never heard of, the Mokele Membi. That's a new one. I have to probably look that up, or maybe some of our viewers can comment on that.
There's
The
all
Mokele
kinds.
Membi.
Yeah.
Cryptologists refer to these entities as cryptids, a term coined by the subculture because it doesn't follow a scientific method. Cryptozoology is considered as pseudoscience by the academic world. It is neither a branch of zoology nor folklore.
Right.
Right.
So you're saying that it's not a branch of science, so you have to
Well, it's because they don't
believe
follow.
first and then put the evidence in to fit the belief? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Now, I mean, I used to find some kind of, not comfort's not the right word, but truth or so, wisdom in this, there's probably, if we came from, an ancestor that was more monkey-like or ape-like, essentially, then there's got to be, something else out there that's even more, ape-like, and then that would be, but
Yep.
that's just because that's what we're exposed to mostly in North America. Where it's,
I am really interested in the use of fear.
yeah,
So we have this. So there was this being afraid of things accentuated the belief in it, or the presence of fear strengthen the belief in this entity of Goat Man.
Right.
Much like in religion, where you're told to fear this God, fear his wrath, fear his punishment.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely a sense of fear. Why don't we go into those woods?
Right.
Oh, because of werewolves. Oh, because of this thing that we're afraid of. And yeah, some woods are definitely have a different vibe than we're used to. And anything that's different, we tend to fear.
Yep.
Right.
Now, have you ever heard of this Goat Man before?
I had, heard about him a little bit, but I
Yeah,
didn't
I've heard
know.
of Shane before. I mean,
Right. Goat
So
chain.
I'm gonna give a little description of this Goat Man story. It's actually
I found it kind of
actually-
fascinating, the story
It's
itself.
like a bad
but-
B movie to me.
Yeah, it's very much, actually, yeah.
So according to urban legend, Goat Man is an axe-wielding, half-human, half-man creature that was once a scientist who worked in the Beltsville Agricultural Research Center.
Interesting.
The tale holds that he was experimenting on goats until one day an experiment backfired and he was mutated, becoming a goat-like thing himself. He then began attacking cars with an axe.
Did he get
roaming
bitten
the
by
back roads of Beltwell, Maryland? And the variations of the legend tell of the Goat Man as an old hermit who lives in the woods, seen walking alone at night in the Fletcher Town Road. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
see the Goat Man thing that I looked up to learn more about it, because he said the Goat Man that he went to the bridge. It's here in Texas, kind of thing. So I looked up the
Denton,
Goat
yeah.
Man legend that surrounds the Denton area, and kind of the same.
Was
Demonic
he a
satyr.
goat experimenting scientist?
No, actually. There was one that he's just a demonic satyr, this half goat,
Okay.
half man thing. But then the other, little bit more interesting, is it's almost like a fantasy or a fantasy horror author went in and kind of scripted a backstory that sounded better. But it was, this gentleman of color comes into this area, moves north of this bridge, Old Alton Bridge or something in Denton, and became well liked in the community, successful, raised goats, stuff like that.
Like all, yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the Klan didn't like, a successful black gentleman, and that the town actually liked him, so they went and, took matters into their own hands, kind of thing. And,
This is like the goat version of Candyman.
kind of, yeah. But it was
Instead of bees, it's goats.
it's that sprinkle of truth, because you're just like, oh well, we know the KKK is horrible, so they go in and
goats are good.
Goats are good. Yeah, they go to kill this guy, throw him off the bridge with the noose tied around his neck, look down to confirm the kill, and lo and behold, he's gone.
Right. Well, I think it's interesting too, the tie-in, science gone wrong, and how many of our horror stories
Right.
today are science gone wrong
Right.
as an origin. And it's like, yeah, that makes for some good TV because we're dealing with stuff we don't really know how it works, but we do know enough to take precautions and to know when scientists are diving into things that are a little bit more dangerous.
Right. We're also going to live in a society where TV actually takes these stories and portrays it as real. For example, he mentioned the ghost hunting story.
Right.
Yeah.
Which are
No, the
which
cryptid
are,
hunting. Ghost hunting is a different one. Yeah.
well, it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's same crap. Yeah.
Same thing where they use trick shots and they use highly edited things and
Sure.
the little mumbling
And
the thing.
worse, it's put on History Channel and Science Channel. And channels that we have come to trust to give us
Information.
the truth and information.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden they're presenting this stuff and it's like, wait a minute. I mean, this should be on the Comedy Channel or Sci-Fi,
yeah.
or one of these other channels where they really fit into it more.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, I mean, I'm a horror author. I'm really active in the creepypasta community. Cryptids are really known there. So, I mean, they are really ripe for stories. One that's really big right now is the Skinwalker. The Skinwalker comes from the Navajo legend of an evil shaman who is transfigures and morphs into other various almost like a werewolf, but more of a different variety. Extremely evil, extremely powerful. Really good source of stories. The Wendigo is another one. I believe the Wendigo was the evil entity in Pet Sematary.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah.
And that one has to deal with cannibalism and various other things.
They're fun stories.
They're fun stories. They serve its purpose. But again, it's just because we fear something, does it make it true?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, going to your TV show example, I used to watch those ghost TV shows a lot. Got sucked into that back in the early 2000s, and it's fun to watch. And I felt myself, falling into the belief of it, and luckily that was my transition to atheism, so I was able to kind of step back and be like,
But these
wait.
these things to me are like almost like a roller coaster ride, where you go to this presumably haunted area, whether it be haunted by a spirit or a cryptid, and it kind of experience it firsthand. I think you saw that kind of that change with the movies when they had the as seen TV type thing, like Paranormal Activity, where it was a new level of, that these things aren't real. But just that other sense of immersion and reality just caused a little bit different type of fear.
Right. Well, you've got like the Blair Witch Project that they tried to bill as a true story.
Oh, that was the worst thing in the world.
Oh my God, I got like seasick.
But the viral
movie
campaign
theater.
was brilliant.
Oh no, it's not brilliant marketing.
It was brilliant marketing.
You got on everybody's radar and everyone to go see it. And then they give us this thing where, I mean, these people couldn't have had more than a brain cell or two firing at the same time. They may have had more than one brain cell, but they weren't all firing at the same time.
Not at the same time, yeah.
Because they just did the dumbest thing possible. And I get these people weren't necessarily, they weren't woods people. They didn't understand anything about woods. But they didn't seem to understand anything about, you need food, shelter, communication.
Right.
They didn't understand the hierarchy of needs. They didn't understand what they needed to do to survive, and they're just going out into the woods. And I kind of get part of that, but none of that was like...
But if they would have gone in, and if the author of the script would have given them that backstory, would they have gone into the woods prepared, and the movie wouldn't have turned out like it did? I don't know.
Well, I think
would they have brought up their GPS and gotten the bleep out of Dodge, or would they have run to the witch's cabin or whatever?
Yeah, there was just so much of it that was...
To me, it would have been like, it's cold out here, end credits.
I did Gettysburg. I did a couple of ghost houses, haunted houses that were supposed to be haunted. And I quickly realized that I am just hanging out after dark in cold-ass, dirty places.
Yeah.
No ghosts, by the way. But this one, I mean, it's he says that it's hard not to believe this kind of stuff.
Yeah. And again, we get into this common thing of belief.
Right.
Does belief equal reality?
Right.
And also, does the number of people who believe in something make it real?
Right.
Right.
Those are the fallacies that we keep on encountering over and over again. Just because I believe it, does it make it real?
Right.
Right.
Well, I mean, I've had a personal experience. I've seen Shane, and he had cloven hoofs. So, I mean, I'm not saying anything. I'm not making conclusions here, but
you should make fun of his birth defects like that.
I think he's been to the old Alton Bridge in Denton. Maybe
I think he has a tail.
He might have a vestigial tail, for sure. But I mean, you have this belief thing, but then he goes on, when pressed on if there's evidence for this, like fossils.
Yep.
And what does he say? He's like, oh, well, they're probably fossils, but they got destroyed in the big government conspiracy.
Well, too, it goes to the Bigfoot is the missing link, and it's like there was a missing link in the 70s.
Right.
But there isn't one anymore. We've got the whole chain.
Well,
multiple versions of the whole chain.
Even if someone were to argue that we can't be certain that it's the whole chain, we still have a vast record of, the fossil record that we can go into and say, like, okay, we've got, all of this. You can line up the skulls and say, like, okay, this is very monkey-like. And then somewhere in the middle, no one can quite agree.
And we're also seeing that, there's, I think the missing link term is kind of misunderstood because there's such a large span of time and such small incremental changes that we're learning that. So, I mean, it's like, so to say the fact that there's no missing link is just a false statement, and it's just kind of a statement made out of ignorance.
Even if there wasn't one, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We can infer based on, I mean, just in the, concept of taking out if there's any kind of missing link. Let's give it to the Christians in this case and say, no missing link.
Right.
We can still infer evolution. We can still say, okay, there's evolution. We're just
because we don't have a certain link that they're looking for doesn't mean God.
Right.
Right.
But I think here's what's the appeal of the cryptid, especially kind of the more genuine cryptids in my, how I define it, is that in our world, they could actually exist where you have like the Loch Ness Monster was thought for years to be kind of like a prehistoric animal that seemed to survive.
Well, we have prehistoric animals
Yeah.
that have survived. Sharks being the most common case.
Right.
Birds having evolved from
No, not chickens, but
yeah, but birds in general, some birds have definitely evolved from that. And
But
we
the
have
Loch
others.
Ness Monster, I mean, that's it's plausible in some way.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the appeal of some of the, Bigfoot. Yeah, there's a plausibility that there's some ape-like creature living there we just haven't discovered. But when you get into the supernatural,
you're making an assumption about Bigfoot that Bigfoot is in fact an ape. It could very well be a bear.
Yeah, it could be.
It could
and
be
see,
more-
that's where I think a lot of this comes from because you've got the abominable Shane Man.
Right.
Go to
Big Bear.
Big Bear. Big Bear chase me.
Big Bear.
You said that it just reminded me.
Big Bear, like big with for big
Great
feet.
Outdoors.
Yeah.
You talk about Big Bear.
The Bigfootses.
Bigfootses. Yeah, but he also mentions, to liken this into like religious style beliefs is that, it's hard not to believe this. And then he goes on to say he likes these shows because they're unshaken in their belief. That they're, no matter what, they're on this mission to find.
Right.
And it comes back to the
Whatnot.
statement, does your personal truth make it true?
Right.
Yeah. And I think, too, it also goes back to people are looking for that capital T truth, that thing they can hang their hat on. And that is still the hardest thing about atheism in many ways is hanging your hat on, I don't know. I think,
Some people say that as a cop-out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's still one of those things that you have to get used to that we don't have any capital T truths. We can't prove that we're not all brains in a vat. We can't prove that I can't prove that any of you actually exist other than through my senses, which we know are inherently faulty.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there are no black and white truths, especially when it's convenient.
Right.
But talking about when he went to the bridge with his fellow friends, I had an experience like that when I was a kid. We were at a basketball playground in an elementary school somewhere in my hometown, and someone heard something, and we all kind of stopped, and everybody gets into it, and it had to have been a gnat in our ear or something making this sound, but all of a sudden, one of the guys was like, somebody's shooting at us or what? And then we all freak out because somebody could be shooting at us and the bullets are like whizzing by our ears.
Yeah.
So all of y'all had nets?
There could have been a bug that flew through a couple, but yeah, we all took off running and screaming in the middle of the night because somebody mentioned that we might have been getting shot at.
We also have a more recent case of that also with the strange sound from our diplomats in Cuba, where they all seem to have been affected by some sort of low frequency that made them sick.
Is that the one they believe is some type of sonic weapon,
Yeah,
possibly?
some sort of sonic weapon was the belief. But that's someone telling a story, someone going, I have something similar, and then all of a sudden everybody has the same symptoms.
Right.
And that's just human nature.
Well, it's that the psychology of priming.
Right,
exactly.
I hear a noise in my ear, I don't think anything, and then somebody mentions bullets and guns, and all of a sudden I'm seeing bullets whiz past my head.
Right. In your case, if you have a gnat in your ear, odds are someone else does too, because they rarely travel alone. Right. There's usually a cloud of them. But yeah, this kind of stuff happens to humans all the time, where we have this virus of ideas, and then our natural instincts kick in because it's better to run away from a bush that's rustling because of the wind and not get eaten than it is to keep walking by the bush and it's rustling because there's a lion in there going to eat us. Right?
It reminds me of that story with the 3 children that supposedly talked to the Virgin Mary and gave them visions, and they were supposed to prove that she had spoken to them, and this mass of people came, and the sun danced, and the
miracle of the sun.
Yeah.
They say,
that was probably one of the largest cases of mass hallucination.
Right. And we know that happens as well. So it's
no, for sure. It all, not all boils down to the priming, but priming has a really big play in it where you plant that seed of whatever thought, and then people's outcome of their thought includes that.
Yeah.
Right. Well, there's also not just that, but we talk about religion poisons everything. So here you are, you're in the middle of this crowd who all claiming to see the sun stop and all this miraculous stuff, and you're the only person that didn't. Do you want to admit on TV that you're evil, that you're bad because you didn't see it, and the only reason you couldn't have seen it was because you're bad in some way? Could you imagine the damage to your psyche that something like that would happen to you?
So I'll tell you a quick story. My mother went to visit her sister down in Brownwood, and one of those really hyper fundamentalistic Pentecostal type churches. When it didn't have a church, they had like a trailer.
Oh.
And they were praying outside in a circle. The preacher was facing my mom. They were in a circle. And the preacher all of a sudden looked up and said that he saw a star, and it was the middle of the day, saw a bright star above my mother. And the person next to him said they saw it too. The next person over here said they saw it too. All around the circle and of course, my mother didn't see it. And, and she said, she was explaining this to me. It's like, well, isn't that some type of miracle? I'm like, well, and it was exactly how my mind was exactly how Jim described it. Like the preacher saying, I saw it too.
Right.
There it is. And, I don't want to be mean or anything, but my mother is not important enough that God would destroy an entire star for her.
Any random human,
or any random human, not just my mother.
If we agree on one.
We're not important enough to destroy an entire star.
Dr. Who would completely disagree with you. He's never met an unimportant human before.
Okay, well, good for him.
Yeah.
He hasn't met my mother.
That is true. But he's also a Time Lord, so he could.
Yeah, I've never seen the show.
So, Jim, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Shouldn't we have a third person?
I know.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so anything else you want to discuss? Anything else you want to discuss? Coming to the end of the show here.
No,
so let's talk about the last thing, which was Ronald Reagan. People believed in him.
Yeah, we touched on it a little bit earlier.
I lived through that. I was a kid. You're way too young, and
I remember him.
Yeah, you probably remember George Washington being elected. So. No,
Derek is a cryptid and has lived long enough.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I hope Shane haunts the hell out of you.
He already
as long
does.
as he doesn't, as long as I don't get got because.
Yeah,
Shane.
but anyway,
You're gonna
if
get
I
got
remember
by
correctly,
Shane.
it was Mondale who was his opponent
And Pharaoh?
in the first one for Reagan. But people believed in him too,
Right.
and he didn't get elected.
Right.
So what does belief have to do with getting elected?
Well, that's the thing, is that he's equating belief in something to believing in somebody. Like, I know you're going to do a good job, Jim. It's not the same as I believe in God. Or I believe
Side
in
note, I was in church, heavily involved in church at that time, and in church from the pulpit, they were telling us if Reagan does not get elected, the future of the United States is in jeopardy. God will turn his eye from us. Literally. Well, this is also when the abortion issue really started getting primed.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, I've heard from Jim Baker that, if Obama's in office, then everything's bad and buy food buckets. And I've also heard that Trump's in office, and if he gets thrown out, then everything's going to be bad, so buy food buckets.
Yeah.
Gross.
So,
well, he's just trying to sell his food buckets.
hey, you think?
Yeah, his foods, his tribulation slop.
Yeah.
Tribulation slop. Right?
Well, I've never tasted it, so I'm not going to say that it's slop.
Yeah, let's
But
not
I have had MREs, and I will make the comparison that all MREs are good if you have enough Tabasco.
Hey, that's probably not true.
That is true.
Oh no, I personally have never found an MRE that did not taste good that didn't have a lot of Tabasco.
I haven't had many MREs.
Yeah, you're not missing anything.
No,
I mean, I've
really
had a
not.
few, and they're not the great, but
All right.
yeah.
I think
I'm on-
this topic
Yeah.
I've been beaten to death. I think
Yeah, I
it's
think
time
so.
to.
So let's go to comments.
Okay,
So
let's
what
go
we've been
to
doing
comments.
lately is looking at our viewer comments and picking out some of the interesting one and kind of discussing it. So we have from Chris Massey from our latest video. I didn't write the name of it down. What was it called? Anyways, he says from 4 days ago. He says, I like how quote-unquote atheists are trying to convince people that the author of the Ten Commandments isn't God.
So we know it's not God, it's human. We don't accept as true that I'm going to rephrase. We don't accept as true that there is one or more gods.
Yeah.
Therefore, we do not accept as true that the Bible was written by God. And
Nor was it relayed by, using Chris's term, Moses.
Well, again, so we know that Israelites were never in Egypt.
Correct.
Right.
The Egyptian National Museum and archaeologists have accepted this, and the Israeli have said this both.
Yes.
And we have found zero evidence that they existed in great numbers. There may have been one or two Israelis who were over there.
Let alone 1 to 2 million people wandering a desert for 40 years.
Right. And so that's problematic because, Alexander the Great came out of Greece and went all the way to India. We have more evidence for his 50, 60, 70,000 troops doing that than we do for 1 million people making a 7-day walk.
Yep.
That's just and took 40 years to do a 7 or 14-day walk. When you look it up on Google Maps.
They give a number of men in the Bible of how many men were on the Exodus, and so when you add in the women and children, there's about 2 million people.
Right.
If you lined them up side by side, 10 by 10, all the way down, the front of the line would be in the Promised Land, and the back of the line would still be in Egypt.
Right. There's a number of problems with that. That just when you start looking at how does this, how do you get enough food to feed that many people?
Right.
The food train has got to be huge. The baggage train has got to be huge. They're not
But there's
walking-
manna,
Well,
Right.
which even according to the Bible, they hated.
regardless of all of that, if you were to read this comment and insert Joseph Smith and golden plates instead of 10 Commandment tablets,
Right.
Well,
it's
the Ten Commandments themselves.
right.
I mean, the first 3 we don't accept as true because there's no God. The rest of them, it's not you can't lie. It's bear false witness against your neighbor. That's not lying.
Yep.
So he doesn't ban lying. So, and where's the don't rape? Where's the don't own slaves?
No.
Where's the don't sell your daughter? By the way, those of you who are Christians, I'd like to buy your daughter.
I would not.
Yeah.
Me
Too many
neither.
headaches.
Yeah.
No, it's just my point is
No,
that where is all this other stuff? Where is the knowledge of how germs work and therefore sanitation?
Right.
Well, I have it up right here. Let's read it real quick. I have a condensed version. Number 1, you shall not have no other gods before me. How is that a legal law?
Well,
Throw it out.
here's the problem with that is because Christians don't acknowledge that there's only one God, and yet their first of the 10 commandments indicates that all the other pantheons exist.
Right. Yeah, that's how it can be read. But if we're looking at it in terms of law and like American
Number
culture,
2.
throw it out.
Yeah.
We don't accept spectral evidence in court.
Yep. Number 2, you should not make no idols. Number 3, you should not take the name of our Lord thy God in vain.
I think that there are
Jesus
YouTube
Christ, why do they
channels
keep
of
putting
people
that?
making
I know.
idols.
Don't say Buddha, damn it. Say God damn it. Say Buddha, damn it. Number 4, keep the Sabbath day holy. Which day is that? Saturday or Sunday?
Right. Well, so there's
I
a reason
skip
why
the day
Christians
and
do
keep
Sunday,
Black
not
Sabbath
Saturday.
holy.
So if you look at, Christ died on a Friday. There was no Christ in the world on Saturday because he was dead, and he rose on Sunday. So the Christians do their Sabbath on Sunday because that's the day that he rose.
Interesting.
Are you claiming that nobody named their children after Christ while he was alive? So when he died, there might have been Christ on earth. They were just, maybe.
Well,
just
yeah.
Next.
But how is that a law? How's that a legal law?
keep Black Sabbath.
Number 5, honor your mother and father.
So
Throw it
here's
out.
my problem with that because we know there are horrible parents.
Yep.
There are people who should never be parents.
Well, in
Correct.
regards to
Correct.
American law, you can divorce your parents essentially.
Yeah.
Get separated from your parents
And
legally. So
what about
toss
these
it.
parents who completely disown their children because their child is LGBTQ or otherwise believes in something they don't believe in? So those are that's problematic.
Right.
Real quick, we're running out of time. Number 6, you shall not murder. Number 7, you shall not commit adultery. Number 8, you shall not steal. Number 9, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. And number 10, my favorite, you shall not covet.
So
Keeping up with the Joneses.
Let's face it. The last one is a mind crime.
Yep.
Right.
Let's get the thought police.
So is
out.
According to Christ, even if you lust in your mind, it's still adultery.
Yeah, I'm not
I
a
don't
big
believe
fan
in
of thought
adultery.
crime is crime. Yeah, just not a huge
I'm
one.
polyamorous or adultery.
So,
Yeah,
so
and-
that's the godly Ten Commandments that
Right.
was written by God.
You could
And they're
you could
horrible.
take
And they're
what,
horrible.
2 of those out about stealing and then about murder. But
I could write
I think
5 better ones and cover it all. I think.
Yeah, I think it originally was "Thou shalt not kill" or something.
Yeah.
and that
It's
would
commit
make
murder.
Yeah,
Because otherwise,
because murder is something different than killing. Because
Yes.
you go to war, you kill somebody. It's not murder.
right. And if you go to war, it should only because your God sanctions killing other
Right.
people, right?
All righty. Anything else?
That was a fun episode.
was a
we
fun
got to pick on
episode.
Shane and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
So next time on Atheist Vanguard, we will find out. We will see if you see Goatman. It's most likely Shane dressed up as Goatman. He admitted it himself.
Yeah,
here.
pretty much.
He admitted it here.
pretty much.
So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Join us in the conversation. You may hear your words on the next episode. Take care. We'll see you later. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.